Shall we try some stretching before we stand up? Reaching one hand at a time. Creating a straight line, the hand going up, but my opposite sitting bone pointing down. And my spine has to bend into a curve to produce this straight line. Down the head away from the arm so that you can really feel the arm pulling from the spine, coming from your back, rather than your front or your side. Then reaching forwards on the horizontal. Again, aiming for maximum extension and letting the head turn so that your eyes are now the other end of the line. My fingers are pointing forwards and my eyes are trying to look right behind me. Now let's try a few just reaching up with both hands. This is really just for really straightening out the spine. So now I'm looking down on top of my fingers, really stretching the back of my neck. And then I'm looking up where the fingers are pointing. And now up, and just bring the arms out to the sides. Turn one hand over, turn the head towards the hand that's looking up, and then turning the head and the hands. Feeling the flow of energy down the arms into the hand that's looking up, that's beginning to look up, the one that you're looking at. And then just a few turning. And then bringing the arms up again. So if your arms get tired when they're out to the side, don't let them flop down, just bring them up. And then the muscles that are working get some relief. So you don't have that sense of failure. And now rolling the ball. The ball being the yin yang symbol that has the Dan Chen at the bottom and the thymus at the top. Three-dimensional yin yang symbol. It's a ball. It's a bit like a combination of the first two exercises we did, reaching up one hand at a time and reaching forwards one hand at a time. So this is producing a bit of a turn. As soon as I have one side of the body doing the opposite of the other, it will tend to turn me. So this is turning me this way. And then, and if you take the hands just a bit further, so this is one hand over the other. If I continue it, then it will tip the spine as well. The spine will bend. And now let's just do a couple of minutes with the arms behind. Holding your two elbows. The pressure you're putting on this point on your spine should help the neck lengthen and the crown of the head reach up towards the ceiling. My crown is reaching up and my tail is reaching down. Okay. So feel that point in the spine again. So it's pushing this up, but it's also thrusting into the thymus, which is itself thrusting into the middle finger. Ward off. It's the two circle exercise, really, but I'm trying to feel the shoulder blade here releasing from the spine. So, whoa, my shoulder blade moves and that takes the arm with it. If my shoulder blade doesn't release, then energy won't flow down the arm. My hand will be moving, but it's not energy coming from the ground. So here, ooh, something has to release from the shoulder, and then that will just flow down into the hand. I want to feel it in the shoulder, in the body, but also want to feel it in the spirit. So what am I doing with my mind, my spirit, to make, or really to allow this release? Something has to really, it's almost like taking a chance, taking a risk. Now then, sliding forwards. And then reaching forwards. Again, I want to feel it from the shoulder. My shoulder releases, and that flows down the arm into the reaching hand. So my hand is sort of moving almost of its own here. And then there comes a point where the shoulder blade can start activating. And then it's quite different. The movement becomes quite different. And now bringing the attention to the hips. So in the same way that the shoulder releases here, I want the feeling that my hip is releasing away from my sacrum. My shoulder blade is releasing away from the spine, and my hip is releasing away from the spine. Feel this almost separating. And to get that sense of separation, I really have to bring all of my weight into the other leg, really. Otherwise, it just can't open up here because it's having to support the weight. Feel the arm throwing like a lasso of energy around whatever it is you're visualizing in front of you. It could just be the computer screen. So something is escaping, but it returns. And then I want to feel the same in the hip. This is coming out and lassoing around the foot. And I draw the lasso in, and that brings my weight into the foot. And then riding horse again. And now the same sort of thing, but using it just to move from leg to leg. I want to feel each leg like a spring, a coiled spring from the ground. And the degree of compression on the spring depends upon how much weight is in it. So when I'm in riding horse, they're both equal. But when I bring the weight into one foot, it squashes the spring, it compresses it. But the other one opens out. This is what I want to feel. I want to feel the emptying. So I'm starting to fill, but as I fill here, the whole leg expands. This is the feeling. One leg is contracting, squashing, and the other leg is stretching, extending. And I want to feel the extending, the stretching, starting from the sacrum. So the hip releasing from the sacrum and that rippling down the leg. And when it reaches the foot, then it starts returning. It comes back up the inside of the leg, and that draws me into the leg. So it has to release here. Ooh, and then something can go down. And again, I want to feel what's happening in the spirit. Ooh, to allow the release from the sacrum. It won't just happen. And what will inhibit it is if you have any sort of vestigial weight in the leg. Even the weight of the leg will tend to stunt it. So I want to try and bring everything into this leg so that this can sort of release. The heel comes up, the knee comes up. This really opens out and stretches open. That's great. So you really have to tip, you really have to lean. Good. Now, the same as this exercise that we started with, but thinking of it more from the sacrum. So what we've just been doing is releasing the shoulder and the hip as I turn away. As I turn to my right, it releases my left side. Now what I want to do is just get it releasing a little bit earlier. So I turn this way first. And it's as I turn back, as I reverse the turning from a left turn to a right turn, that's the point where it releases. You feel it in the shoulder, but we want to feel it in the hip as well. So I'm bringing the energy in my dantian, if you like. I'm taking it through to the Ming Men, and then I'm throwing it around with a little flick of the hips. And that helps the hip release from the sacrum. What am I doing with my spirit to make this happen? So I have to feel these hollows here, the equivalent of these hollows here, beneath my collarbones here. It's like a little concave surface which the energy can just roll off and be reversed. It goes back the way it came. And then back to riding horse again. Feel that, something releasing, the shoulder blades releasing from the spine, which keeps the channel open at that point. What we want to feel is the same thing here. I sort of go down and just allow these points, my sacroiliacs, that's locally where it is, but I think it's energetically, it's a bit more than that. That real sense that something, you've got a growth either side. In the same way you've got a hollow here, you've got a real convex lump growing out of each sacroiliac. And that just comes from you just releasing here. And in order to release, you really have to intensify. Something in you has to become quite fierce. And when you release here, then you also get a much better connection on the ground. And then you realize how much of your mind you're using to prevent yourself from properly connecting to the ground. So it's sinking, but real sinking, not just bending the legs, but really releasing. And then you get a real sense that the ground has come up into you and is pulling at you. And what I've found is it just won't, if I'm trying to keep my back, Chen Manqing's vertical back, it just won't happen. So for me, there's so much work one needs to have done before one can even approach Chen Manqing's posture. And it's just this sense of sinking and not being afraid to lean forwards, so we can get really low and we can work from down here, so we can figure of 8. And because we associate getting low with pain and with difficulty. So we just have to push through, as we're sinking down, as you're going down into a squat, what's happening in the mind? Where are you putting barriers up? Because the only thing that's preventing you from really sinking down into a squat is your own mind. So I'm going down. Now so here, at this point, my knees want to collapse in and I really don't want to go down any further. So I have to change my mind. I'm going down. Now something in me has to really open up so that I can just take it down further. And then it's like you're in a different world. because everything has changed. Your spirit has changed, which has meant that your energy has changed. Your body is now more open. It's more possessed by pain, like a fiery pain. Okay, now let's try just a little bit of the same idea. Basically a figure of 8, but just for the head. So in the same way that we've got these two shoulder blades that sort of come away from the spine, and you can think of them as these convex cups that create this inner concave surface here. And the same with the hip bones are producing these curves here, these hollows. I want to feel the same sort of thing with the head. Obviously, there isn't the same mobility of the bones, but I feel like there is. So I'm sort of bringing the energy into this point, into the bridge of the nose, and then just take it back and let it just curve around. So I'm feeling the curvature of the back of my skull, just rerouting the energy around. So the energy that is coming towards me gets rerouted back the way it came. And this is just the figure of 8. Two circles joined together, one going one way, one going the other. Coming in, round. And the mobility, we've got this real feeling that the shoulder blades can actually separate from the spine into this and sort of down here. You get that sense of mobility here, just like using the jaw. So I bring it in and something, I have to do something. So I see it, but then I also have to do something with my spirit and my body. It becomes a reality. It's no longer just an image in my head. The image has become real. So my jaw and my eyes. So my eyes sort of catch it. As soon as I feel it coming around, my eyes catch it and take it. And then my eyes bring it back. So there's a point where my eyes are converging, crossing here to bring it back into the center. If anything, this one is easier to feel because we're so not used to doing this. And now just back to riding cross. Again, that feeling of, I've released here. It's what John used to call the skirt or the wings of the legs. It's a real sense that something is coming around you, around the legs. And it just won't happen if you keep your bum in. If I go down like this, that has that sort of meditative serenity. We're really trying to just work with energy and get our energy out. And that requires a really fierce spirit, which really only a good connection with the ground will give you. So there's a real sense of I've got down and I've released here so that I've got each foot on the ground. I'm grabbing the ground with each foot. And now let's just turn. So just the first warm-up exercise. Turning the way we do by straightening a leg and then bending. Straightening this leg and then bending it. Straightening this leg, bending it. I want to really be aware of what it is that makes turning so sort of cleansing, if you like. The fact that my head is always turning, I'm always leaving something behind and coming into something new. My eyes cannot fix on anything. So you're letting the world flow by. So my toes grip the ground and my leg pulls. And then as I pass the front, this leg starts straightening. So a leg bends to pull me back to the front, and then another leg straightens to turn me away from the front. The back hand comes into the Ming Men as a fist. The front hand reaches out open. Sense that your back hand is grabbing a handful of energy filaments and pulling them around. Feel the bending leg. So as this leg is straightening, if this leg was simply bending, then I'd just be moving side to side. I wouldn't really be turning. So as this straightens, this leg has to not bend too much in order to give me a sense that I'm keeping my dantian in the middle, my sacrum in the middle. So as I straighten this leg, at the end, this leg has to start straightening to keep this hip back. We want to feel that. It's quite different from moving just from leg to leg. So the turning really is coming from this leg, pushing this around here. So this leg bends to pull me back to the front, but then it starts straightening. and sort of wrapping around like this. And then the second one. Same principles. The difference here is that my body is moving back all the time. Whereas on the previous one, there was a sense of it moving forwards all the time, sinking into the back foot, sinking into the back foot. Feel the wings. The wings are most obvious, the wings of the arms, so the shoulder blades really. Yeah, so here, this shoulder blade is releasing and the hand is coming up to hit the heart. I want to feel it in the leg as well. So as I turn, a real sense that something is releasing from my sacroiliac and coming down and embracing this leg. And keeping the knee out here, so not letting the knee collapse in, will help that. And then you can feel it in the head as well, so a sense of something coming around from the occiput. Again, this is this jaw releasing. Riding horse again. Willingness to get down, to feel the ground. The ground isn't something I push away from so that I can think. It's something I'm really trying to become intimate with so that I won't think or so that I can't think. If you've got a good connection with the ground, there's no way there can be anything in here other than awareness. And now the circle. Turning so that the circle is wide and using the legs to take the hands down rather than inclining forwards. This is a great one for just courageously getting low. And then just changing direction. Slowly winding it down. Feel these points here. So one releases, grabbing the ground, and the other releases, grabbing the ground. In the same way, if I wanted to grab something with the arm strongly, then I would release the shoulder and grab it. And when I do that, as my hand goes out to claim whatever it is that I'm grabbing, there's already a sense of it returning. This is what we want all the time. Even when we let the energy out here, there's a sense, it's like a boomerang. Eventually, it's going to start returning. So the shoulder blade releases. So it's already really returning before I pull at it. So I'm not grabbing something and then pulling it towards me. I'm reaching behind the thing and helping it on its way, helping it come towards me. Especially with the ground, I'm reaching down and I'm pulling the ground up into my Dan Chen, the same way I'm pulling the other person into my heart, or pulling whatever it is I'm sensing here into the brain. And now let's try with 1 foot forward. So basically the same thing. So just this exercise, but with a real sense of release. The shoulder blade releases. That throws out this lasso of energy, which encircles the computer screen or whatever it is you're in front of and draws it towards you. So in my classes, we try this with a partner. We're both doing the same thing. So both of us are left foot forward, but they're in front of me, like a couple of meters ahead. And just visualizing that you're wrapping around them. My energy is flowing out and going behind them. And then as it loops behind them, I then catch it once it's started coming towards me. And then the same thing here. And you can really feel it, when the other person lets their energy out. It's overwhelming almost. It's like a wave, very much like John's rebound. You're standing there, you're pushed, and a wave just takes you. Like a wave at the sea that rolls up. And what we want to be able to do is release the energy, so the energy can flow along this path without my body having to follow it. This is why we have to stay sunk, because the body will always tend to want to go with the energy as it comes out of you. The energy to release from the left side of my body, I have to be totally secure in my right leg, and I have to allow these points, hip bone, shoulder, and the back of the head really just separate from the midline of the back, from the spine. So the more weight I can get into the supporting leg, the more the release. So I'm really reaching towards that screen. And in a way, it's easier to feel when the body is moving backwards, because it's more clear that there's a separation between spirit and body. So my body's moving backwards, I can really feel the spirit moving forwards. Feel the hip bone releasing from the sacrum. There's a real sense of something has come out here as I bring the weight into this foot. And then other foot flips. Feel the root, the subterranean seriousness. You'll sense that part of you is in the ground. Your body may be on the ground, but a real sense that a large portion of your energy is underground. The iceberg, what you see is just the tip of the iceberg, and what's under is much bigger. And now let's just breathe, something simple. So this is, you're like a really primitive worm. You know those nematode worms that sort of whip around in a figure of eight, and that's how they swim. So you're just a contracting and relaxing muscle. And my front centers are drawing in. That allows my back centers to open out. And then my back centers draw in, allowing my front centers to open out. Just try and make sure you're getting the back centers opening phase, this phase, coming from pulling yourself down into the legs. A sense of my hamstrings pulling. It's not really the hamstrings, I don't think, but it's a sense that you're being drawn down into the backs of the legs. And then just, and now let's just squat down. And when you place the hands, feel it earthing. I place the hands and I get a real sense that energy is being sucked into the ground down my arms. The same way it's happening with the feet, because we have such a split between the upper and the lower body. They both need to be earthed. Imagine someone behind you, pretty much in the same posture, but their hands are on your shoulder blades. They're not pushing, they're just resting their hands there. And that's sort of giving you permission to connect to the ground. This is the importance of the other person. They give me permission. And now the one where we basically sit on our heels. So this is wobbly, so just be careful. Your heels are sort of pushing up into your sitting bones. So there's a sense of you sitting on the heels. I mean, you're not really putting your weight in them, but there is a connection there. Trying to get the legs as wide as possible. And then just trying to come up. It's easier said than done. Even the sumo guys lean forwards to do that. Some of them push on their knees with their hands. And then let's just try the heel exercise. Produces a turn and a sort of wriggle in the spine. There's a ripple. There's a ripple going up and there's a ripple going down. And then the feet just a little bit wider. Same thing. It's really just the figure of eight exercise. Again, I want to feel the spine turning, but also tipping. Sense that you're moving on every plane. And it's always threatening to topple. Right. And then let's just finish. Feel the wings reaching down, the tentacles from here into the ground and just hauling you down. And then just bring it up. So when we're low, when we're that close to the ground, when we have a root, we're in a world that isn't cluttered with objects. We're not even aware of the things around us. We're just so possessed by pain or intensity and the energy that's exuding from the body. So when we come back up, that moment before we've reached out and reconnected with the objects that we're familiar with, there's a sense of this almost like an empty bereftness. It's like you're emptied of the thing that you're most enamored of, which is this energetic connection with the ground. And just feel the swarming, the energy that's coming out of your back, these tentacles that are coming out of your spine at every point, even the legs as extensions of the spine, the back of the head. What John called the guardian, the sense that there's something behind you, a big, energetic creature. So you can think of each of these centers containing like a little Buddha or a little guru or a little you sitting in meditation. And when you're sitting meditating, then you can feel yourself contained within one of the centers of this entity that's behind you.